From the moment she opened her mouth to sing, the world would eventually have to listen. But before any of that, there was only a one-room cabin in the Great Smoky Mountains, a family with almost nothing, and a little girl who somehow believed she was destined for more. This is the story of Dolly Parton, and it begins not with fame, but with poverty so complete that few today can fully imagine it. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, in a small cabin on the banks of the Little Pigeon River in Sevier County, Tennessee, near the community of Locust Ridge. She was the fourth of 12 children born to Robert Lee Parton and Avie Lee Parton. Her father was a sharecropper and laborer who had little formal education, unable to read or write for much of his life. Her mother came from a large mountain family with deep roots in Appalachian folk tradition, including music, storytelling, and old-time religion. The family lived in extreme poverty, in a home without electricity or indoor plumbing, in a region of the country where the Great Smoky Mountains offered beauty, but very little economic opportunity. The Parton family was so poor that, according to accounts Dolly herself has given many times over the decades, her father paid the local doctor who delivered her not with money, but with a sat of cornmeal. This story, along with many others from her early childhood, became part of the material she would later transform into song. Life in the Parton household meant shared beds, homemade clothing, and meals that depended heavily on what could be grown or hunted. Despite the hardship, Dolly has consistently described her childhood as one filled with love, faith, and music, even amid the material lack. Music was woven into nearly every part of life in the Parton household and the surrounding community. Dolly's maternal grandfather, Jake Owens, was a Pentecostal preacher, and religious singing was a central part of family gatherings and church services. It was in this environment, surrounded by hymns, gospel singing, and mountain ballads passed down through generations, that Dolly first began to sing. She has said that she started making up songs and singing before she could properly write, and that music offered her an early outlet for imagination in a household where luxuries were non-existent. By the time she was a small child, Dolly was already performing. She sang in church, and by around the age of 10, she had begun appearing on local radio and television in Knoxville, Tennessee, on a program called The Cass Walker Show, named for the businessman and local personality Cass Walker, who sponsored it. This early exposure gave Dolly a public platform years before most children her age would even consider a career in music, and it planted the earliest seeds of her professional ambitions. At the age of 13, Dolly recorded her first single, Puppy Love, which was released on the small Louisiana-based label Gold Band Records in 1959. Though the song did not achieve significant commercial success, it marked her first entry into the world of recorded music. Around this same period, she also made an appearance at the Grand Ole Opry, the historic institution in Nashville considered the most prestigious stage in country music. Being on that stage as a teenager only deepened her determination to build a career in the industry, and it was there, according to accounts she has repeated over the years, that she first resolved to move to Nashville permanently once she finished school. Dolly graduated from Sevier County High School in 1964. True to the ambition she had voiced years earlier, she moved to Nashville the very next day after graduation, determined to pursue music professionally. Life in Nashville in the mid-1960s was far from easy for a young woman from a poor rural background with no industry connections. She worked to establish herself as a songwriter, taking whatever opportunities she could find, while also beginning to build relationships within the Nashville music business. It was during this period, in 1966, that she married Carl Dean, a man she had met in Nashville shortly after her arrival. The two have remained married for decades, and Carl Dean, who worked in the asphalt paving business, largely stayed out of the public eye throughout Dolly's rise to fame. Dolly's early years in Nashville were marked by slow, incremental progress. She signed a songwriting contract and began placing songs with other artists, gradually building a reputation within the industry as a talented writer. Her recording career also began to take shape, and by the late 1960s, she had signed with Monument Records. Her early solo singles achieved modest attention, but her big break came through a partnership that would define the next several years of her career and bring her national recognition. In 1957, Dolly joined the Porter Wagoner Show, a nationally syndicated country music television program hosted by established star Porter Wagoner. She became his featured female vocalist, replacing Norma Jean, who had previously held that role. The Porter Wagoner years spanning roughly from 1967 to 1974, were crucial in building Dolly's national profile. The duo recorded numerous duet albums together and had significant chart success, including hits that helped establish Dolly as far more than just a background performer. Their professional partnership made her a familiar face and voice across American households, particularly in rural and country music audiences, and gave her the platform to begin releasing her own solo material with greater visibility. During this period, Dolly also began writing some of the songs that would eventually become the most significant of her career. In 1973, she wrote Jolene, a song about a woman pleading with another woman not to take her man, inspired in part by a real encounter with an attractive bank teller who had shown friendly attention toward Carl Dean, as Dolly has recounted in interviews over the years. Released in 1973, and reaching its chart peak in early 1974, Jolene became one of her signature songs, and has since been covered by numerous artists across multiple genres, cementing its place as one of the most recognized country songs ever written. That same period produced another song that would go on to have an even more extraordinary life of its own, I Will Always Love You. Dolly wrote this song in 1973 as a heartfelt goodbye to Porter Wagoner, as she made the difficult decision to leave his show and pursue her solo career independently. The professional and personal relationship between the two had grown complicated, and rather than simply walking away, Dolly chose to express her gratitude and her need for independence through song. I Will Always Love You was released in 1974 and became a #1 country hit for Dolly that year, and again when she re-recorded it in 1982 for the film The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Its most famous and commercially dominant version, however, came in 1992, when Whitney Houston recorded it for the film The Bodyguard. Houston's rendition became one of the best-selling singles of all time, and introduced the song, and by extension Dolly's songwriting talent, to a global pop audience, far beyond the world of country music. After parting ways professionally with Porter Wagoner in 1974, though the two would continue to have a complicated but ultimately reconciled relationship until his death in 2007, Dolly focused fully on building her solo career. The mid to late 1970s saw her steadily rise as a country star in her own right, with hit songs and increasing television appearances. Her ambition, however, extended beyond the borders of country music. In 1977, she released Here You Come Again, a song that successfully crossed over into mainstream pop audiences, reaching #1 on the country charts and #3 on the Billboard Hot 100. This crossover success marked a turning point, positioning Dolly as an artist capable of appealing to audiences well beyond traditional country radio. The 1980s brought some of the most significant achievements of Dolly's career, expanding her presence into film alongside music. In 1980, she starred in 9 to 5 alongside Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, playing a secretary navigating workplace dynamics in a story about women's professional struggles. She also wrote and performed the film's theme song 9 to 5, which became a #1 hit on both the country and pop charts, and earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song, along with a Grammy Award. The film itself was a major box office success, and remains one of Dolly's most recognized acting credits. She went on to appear in other films throughout the decade, including The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in 1982, opposite Burt Reynolds, and later Steel Magnolias. In 1989, a film about a close-knit group of women in a small Louisiana town, which became one of the most beloved ensemble dramas of its era, and further established Dolly's credibility as a dramatic actress. Even as her film career flourished, Dolly continued building her business empire, most notably through Dollywood. The theme park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, had a history that predated Dolly's direct involvement, originally opening in 1961 as Rebel Railroad, and later operating under other names, including Gold Rush Junction and Silver Dollar City. In 1986, Dolly partnered with the Herschend family, who owned the park, and it was rebranded as Dollywood. Under this new identity, the park grew substantially over the following decades, becoming one of the most visited tourist attractions in Tennessee and a major economic engine for the surrounding Smoky Mountains region, providing thousands of jobs in an area that, within Dolly's own lifetime, had once been defined by the very poverty she had grown up in. Dolly's business interests extended beyond entertainment into philanthropy, most significantly through the Dollywood Foundation, which she established in 1988 to support various charitable causes tied to her home region. The most enduring and far-reaching of these efforts is Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which she founded in 1995. The program began as an effort to mail free books to children in Sevier County, Tennessee, in order to promote literacy in a region where educational resources had historically been limited. A cause deeply personal to Dolly given her own father's inability to read. The program grew far beyond its original scope, expanding first across Tennessee and eventually into other states and countries, including Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Ireland. By providing a free book each month to enroll children from birth until age 5, the Imagination Library has distributed well over 100 million books over the years, making it one of the most significant literacy initiatives in modern history, and a program frequently cited by educators, public officials, and researchers studying early childhood literacy outcomes. Throughout her career, Dolly Parton has received extensive recognition for both her artistic and humanitarian contributions. She has won multiple Grammy Awards across several decades, along with numerous Country Music Association and Academy of Country Music Awards. She has been inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and in 2022, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an induction she initially expressed hesitation about accepting, stating publicly that she did not feel she had earned a place in rock music specifically, before ultimately accepting the honor and even releasing a rock-oriented album, Rockstar, that same year. In 2006, she received the Kennedy Center Honors, one of the highest recognitions in American arts and culture, for her lifetime contributions to American cultural life. She has also been offered the Presidential Medal of Freedom on separate occasions, which she publicly declined, stating she did not feel it was the right time to accept given the political circumstances surrounding the offers, while expressing hope of possibly accepting such an honor in a different context in the future. Beyond formal awards, Dolly's philanthropic reach expanded further during moments of public crisis. In 2020, amid the global COVID-19 pandemic, she donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center to support coronavirus research. That funding was later reported to have contributed to research that assisted in the development of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, a contribution that received widespread public attention and appreciation. Given the scale of the global crisis at the time, Dolly's personal life has remained relatively private compared to her public career, despite decades of fame. Her marriage to Carl Dean, which began in 1966, has endured for well over 5 decades. Notable in an industry where long, private marriages are relatively rare among performers of her stature. Carl Dean largely avoided public appearances and media attention throughout their marriage, a choice both he and Dolly have said suited their relationship well. The couple did not have biological children, though Dolly has spoken about helping raise some of her younger siblings during her own childhood, and has maintained close relationships with many nieces, nephews, and extended family members throughout her life. Despite her enormous success, Dolly's path was not without professional and personal challenges. Her early years in the male-dominated country music industry required her to navigate significant obstacles as a woman seeking creative and business independence, particularly during and after her departure from the Porter Wagoner partnership, which caused public tension between the two performers for a period of time before their eventual reconciliation. She has also spoken candidly over the years about being underestimated due to her appearance and public persona, often noting that many people assumed her glamorous image and quick wit meant she lacked business acumen or serious artistic depth, an assumption repeatedly disproven by the scale and consistency of her songwriting output, business ventures, and philanthropic organization over more than 5 decades. As her career progressed into the 21st century, Dolly continued to remain active across multiple fields. She released new music consistently, contributed to film and television projects, and expanded Dollywood's offerings, including additional attractions, resorts, and entertainment options that further solidified the park's place as a major destination in American tourism. She also continued to serve as a prominent advocate for literacy and childhood education through the ongoing expansion of the Imagination Library, which remained one of her most consistent and personally significant undertakings throughout the decades following its founding. Reflecting on the full arc of her life, from a cabin without electricity in rural Tennessee to global recognition as one of the most successful and enduring performers in American music history, Dolly Parton's story stands as a rare example of an individual whose rise from poverty was matched not only by extraordinary commercial and artistic success, but by a sustained, decades-long commitment to giving back to the community and region from which she came. Her songs, many of them drawn directly from her own childhood experiences and the struggles of her family, remain deeply embedded in American cultural memory, performed and reinterpreted by generations of artists across multiple genres. Her business ventures transformed the economic landscape of the region she grew up in, providing opportunity in a place that had once offered her family very little. And her philanthropic work, particularly through the Imagination Library, has left immeasurable and ongoing impact on childhood literacy far beyond the borders of Tennessee. From a one-room cabin beside the Little Pigeon River, to stages, screens, and institutions recognized around the world, Dolly Parton's life remains a documented, verifiable testament to what sustained ambition, talent, and generosity can build across a lifetime. A legacy shaped not by inherited privilege, but by decades of consistent work, remembered and celebrated long after the poverty of her earliest years had become only the beginning of a much larger story.